All right. Looks like we're live. Long time no see for a couple of folks probably. So for those who don't know me yet, I'm Matt. I work at JetBrains. Um, yeah, and today in this talk, we will talk about Rider, all the Rider things. So what I really like is to give you a brief introduction also about the about how Rider came about. And so let's start. Maybe a couple have already seen this nice, beautiful image before. So this was at the very start, and you can't really call that Rider, but it was at the time where we already looked into providing, dedicated IDE as opposed to ReSharper, which usually, or uh, not usually, but compared to ReSharper, which is a extension to Visual Studio. So we wanted to have our own IDE. For a very long time, this approach was no longer followed, I would say, and this was also long before the time that I joined the company. But what we always kept in mind was, of course, to have abstraction as much as possible so that we're not bound too much to Visual Studio. So about Rider's architecture, because this is really, really fancy. At least back then. Meanwhile, it got a lot more complicated. But Rider is like takes front end from takes the front end from IntelliJ, from the IntelliJ platform. The IntelliJ platform is what we use for all of our other actual IDEs, let's say, like IntelliJ IDEA, PyCharm, RubyMine, WebStorm, etc. All those are based on the IntelliJ platform. That runs on the JVM. And ReSharper, just that, what I just showed you about the, well, let's say feature implementation, which is not exactly UI bound, that ReSharper host, we call it, is running on .NET Framework. Okay, I think I need to update that slide. But I think on Windows, it's still running on .NET Framework. But on Linux and macOS, this is running on .NET Core, and also most of the time the latest, actually, or one of the latest. And now we have these two processes, the backend that calculates all the features basically or provides the features, and the front end IntelliJ platform that renders the code, shows us certain actions, features, UIs, etc. And those two need to communicate with each other, of course. And for that, we implemented a lightweight reactive protocol in Kotlin. For those who haven't heard about Kotlin, that is pretty much the go-to language for Android, and it was developed by JetBrains also, by us, and is for me, the C#.NET developer, I would say it's just a nicer version of Java. And yeah, these two, or Rider as a whole, is highly interprocedural. So there are a lot of separate processes that interact with each other through that protocol. We use this approach not just between the front and the back end, but also for the Unity editor, for instance, for our debugger. We also use it for Windows Forms and what else? Actually, for XAML preview. So a lot, and probably this list is growing by the day. Well, maybe also not. But yeah, this is an approach, and that works really nicely. And one of the great benefits is also that if you decouple the front and the back end in that way, and as you can imagine, the back end is very busy or parsing source code, lexing, etc. And by putting all this heavy work into the background process, the front end should be, and usually also is, very, very snappy. I think that is what most of the people that I also read a lot in the Discord, and that is always something that people point out what they like. Okay, shared code. Yeah, we didn't implement a lot, let's say, for Rider in terms of C#, .NET code handling and stuff. A lot of code is reused, yeah, shared. Also today, we when ReSharper gets a feature for C#, F#, etc., then Rider gets it as well. There are some parts which are which don't come from ReSharper anymore, which includes, for instance, support for TypeScript and JavaScript. And I think, yeah, that is sometimes changing. There was one thing, but I forgot it at the current moment. So something was also going to be replaced, I think. Okay, but then we also have the front end, like I said. And here we also benefit from the development in the IntelliJ IDEA team. Yeah. And historically, what we inherited, let's say, right away, without doing much, was VCS integration, command line, tool window, bookmarks, custom themes, and all that stuff. Yeah, Scratch files are also nice. And the very, very large ecosystem of plugins. I think that number should also be updated at some point. I guess that's way higher meanwhile. Okay, so and I think that's demo time. So this is Rider. Maybe for some of you, and I see I forgot disabling Copilot, because this is always a bit annoying if I show features like in this case. But this is Rider, and maybe this looks already not so familiar for some people who already use it, and that is because I'm brave today, because I enabled the new UI that we were working on for a couple of releases, for at least one release already. And that one I enabled, so this is why this looks a bit more fancy, more, futuristic maybe. But yeah, this is Rider. As you can see, we have a lot of icons here on the left, on the right, which basically then help you to open tool windows and stuff like that. But I personally, I'm not a big fan of using the mouse and clicking, etc. So what I want to show you at first is the main shortcut that you have to know, and that is double shift. So whenever I hit double shift, then this little dialog here will pop up, and from here I can search pretty much everything. Yeah, I can search for, as you see, all, yeah, and which includes all the rest. But we can search for classes, files, symbols, actions, and yeah, you see I'm using the mouse, but actually you can also use tab for that. So yeah, and with that, actions, for instance, or we could actually search for the Solution Explorer. That's what I used before. And then I don't know where it is exactly in Solution Explorer. Should be View in Solution Explorer, and that would open the tool window. Yeah, I also have it, because I actually forgot the name, how that was called. But if you ever know the shortcut, because I am a shortcut person, yeah, and I just use Control-1 to toggle this. But like in this case right now, when I was forgetting about how this thing is called, then you can also go here, type the shortcut, and then you would see what the actual name is that you can also search in this double shift dialog. Yeah, so this is quite nice to find something, whatever shortcut you want to try. I think people coming from ReSharper, they definitely know about the Control-T shortcut for go to type. This is very similar. Actually, I don't know if there's a difference, but now I got used to Shift and I do Shift all the time. Okay, so far for meeting Rider the first time. Yeah, whatever you search it here. That includes all of the what I mentioned, but also pretty much all that I mentioned. Now I want to, okay, and I didn't revert that. That was one thing that I still tried before. But one thing Writer is pretty good at is completion. And for instance, if we have something like this here, we can use Alt-Enter to fix code. You know, this might be something that you copied from elsewhere, and then to say import missing using file here. We can continue, and this is also something that existed for ages, but I still love it. And that is the fact that you see we are using, or we're working with an enumerable of int, and we could say we want to count something. Yeah. And in this parenthesis, you can see that this is coming from system.link, but system.link is not yet imported. But once we complete this, then this work will be done for us. So this is an extension method, as you can most probably know, denoted also by this little arrow here. And this is nice because it works for any type. Yeah, if you have a type and extension method might come from elsewhere, then this approach still works. And so then we could continue here and say, okay, we want only the, okay, so I can type only the even numbers, and then, okay, that was not right. And then return that, for instance, as yeah, still not initialized, but that's another thing. About another thing about completion. So this might be something that you're using in your also, again, if you copy code from elsewhere, and you know, in this case, it's a very simple example, and to most, it's probably also obvious. This is coming from NUnit, but sometimes you might know, where does this type come from, and then Writer can help you in a very nice way, because you can Alt-Enter again and say you want to find this type on NuGet. And then what happens, you know, in this case, it's obvious, it's NUnit, so then we can install it, and then it takes a moment, and then we come back, and again, we can import that type. Yeah, so very, very easy in that regard. One very good example, and I love this so much, although it's so simple, but if you look at this particular code here, at first, it's probably not obvious what this code is doing. Yeah, we have a lot of negation here, okay, then we have to negate again inside. And again, using Alt-Enter, which is I don't know which shortcut is more important, Alt-Enter or Shift-Shift. But in this case, Alt-Enter, it will, or it even gives us, you know, this little visual highlighting about something's going on here. Then we can Alt-Enter and replace, and at first we kind of merge these two negations, and in the second run we can also say we want to replace this with a method group. And I guess this piece of code is much easier to understand, because it just says text, all of them are letters. And again, this is really just an example, but you know how this goes. You write a large expression, and then after the fact, you can simplify that, and that is what Writer can help you with, to make code more readable. Yeah, that's the primary goal here. Okay, then I want to show you something around. I also want to take the time into account here. I want to show you a couple of things about navigation. So I have this vehicle here, and maybe you can imagine this car is deriving from vehicle base. And by the way, this I have to stress one more time. We can use double shift here also to look for derived symbols, for instance. And along this, you can always see the shortcuts on macOS look a little bit fancy, but this is kind of Alt-End. And this helps you to find actions related to also to the caret where you're currently on, because I'm on car, so I can search for derived types, of course, or it was something symbol, you know, I forgot it already. Base symbols, exactly, and then navigate there. Yeah. One other thing which is pretty convenient here is if you hit Alt-Enter here, then you can also inspect all the features, particularly for navigation. So in this case, car, we can say navigate to, and then you get a large list of what navigation methods we can try. And this is also nice because, and this works with all the pop-ups, whenever you see something like this, a list, you can, and you want to, filter it, then you can just go ahead and type something and it will reduce the result set, and you don't need to leave the mouse. And yeah, so that's also nice. But again, we can navigate to the base type, we can navigate to derived types. We can also, by the way, this is because it's directly inheriting. The others are just transitively inheriting. We can also inspect the type hierarchy, like in this case, and we can see what is inheriting, what is deriving, or a mixture between the two. And also we can, include or exclude external assemblies, and that works nicely if you want to include whatever type is coming from externally. What else do we have? Let's see. We have type linked. Okay, yeah. Also, one thing that is pretty nice that I like a lot is if we go here, there's also one navigation which says extension methods. And this will show all the extension methods. And it's also interesting that this is sorted from being more specialized, because this is typed to iVehicle, to more general, because this is typed to just object. Yeah. And again, here we can type and search and navigate around. Okay, yeah, bookmarks. We have bookmarks. You can toggle bookmarks, and then you can see them here in this list. This list also includes breakpoints, which is nice. We will get to this a little bit later. And one thing that I should also mention, because of these bookmarks, is, and I think here's the best time to fit this. If you are, I won't show you this in action, but if you work in different branches, and maybe in one branch you debug that one method and have a breakpoint there, and in another branch you're debugging something else, then once you switch those branches, which by the way also works very fast, I think a lot of people can confirm, then these bookmarks and breakpoints, they get restored. So you will always get the view, also latest files, etc., from that branch that you were working on before. Speaking of the devil, that is also a nice shortcut. So if you say recent files, which for me is Control comma, then you can see a list of recent files that we navigated. And one thing that is special about this, because you might say, okay, this looks like basically like this, Control tab, but it's not, because with Control tab, you see every time I select something and let go my fingers, then I will navigate. But with this, it stays like this. And then we can, again, also use, for instance, capital letter search. That doesn't only work here, but in all navigation methods. For instance, VB for vehicle base. You can also see that the capital letters are highlighted. And then we can navigate there. You can also, and that's nice too, hit Control comma twice, because then you see this little checkbox here. Then we will filter the results set to the recently edited files only. Yeah, you can also see this here. I'm not sure how well it can be seen on YouTube, but these two here are a little bit bluish. So that's also why they're only shown here. And of course, we can also search for the tool windows, like NuGet, for instance. Then NuGet tool window will open. And yeah, one thing that I also really like is, how's it called? Sometimes I also have to try to remember, and I think it's, yeah, like I said, I'm using the shortcuts all the time, but Control 0 for me does hide all tool windows. Yeah, and what this does is, maybe we can open another one as well. Hierarchy. Yeah. So if I hit that, then everything will be gone except the editor. And if I hit it again, then all the tool windows will be restored. Yeah. So that was hide all windows. Actually, it should be called hide/restore something. But yeah, that's the shortcut, and I absolutely love it. Okay, so far for navigation, I would say. Maybe we can head over to another solution that I have here to show you a bit more. And let me see with what we start. Yeah, cognitive complexity. It might be a good one if it's enabled. Let's see, because I think I have code vision disabled. Yeah, so if I enable that, then you can see I have a method here which shows very complex. Yeah, this is a plugin that I have installed along with Rider. On the plugins, that's also what I mentioned earlier. There's a large amount of plugins that are worth checking out. This is one of them, and now it disappeared. Where's Code Vision? I have no idea where it disappeared. Yeah, and this will show you the complexity of a method, just like a little indicator, and it also helps you to identify the places that impact this metric the most. Yeah, you can set your own threshold, of course, but afterwards you can see this is very heavy, so we might go here and say we want to merge these two ifs, then we're a little bit less already. Here in this case, you can see those highlightings again also, yeah, and does this, I have no idea if this zooms. But here again, we can also use Rider to simplify our code again, to use the component assignment like this. Now you can see we're much lower already, not yet where we want to be, but yeah, that is, maybe we just increase the threshold in this case. Yeah. So this is one plugin I really like. The other plugin, I have to go back here because I have not fully moved my demo solution. But another one is Heap Allocation View. And that helps us to show allocations in our code. Yeah. So for instance, list for each will use this in a performant way, so there's no allocation happening here. But for this, for instance, because we are calling as enumerable, that would allocate something. Same with this method group, and if you highlight, you can always see what exactly is happening. This one captures the this reference. This one, in addition, also captures the string. Here we have boxing allocation and string concatenation and all these things. Yeah. So Heap Allocation View is also a pretty nice plugin. Then let's go back here and maybe a little bit more about code analysis. Yeah. Let me see. Code templates. Yeah. So code templates, I want to make this rather short, but I can give you the link afterwards also for people that are interested. But these code templates, and I have one here, allow you to write inspections on your own, by yourself. Yeah. You see this takes a little bit of time to get used to. Basically what we're saying is we want to search for any assert that with a placeholder, which is any argument, and then followed by is true. And we want to say this API is deprecated and please use assert that instead. It should be assert is true probably, but yeah. So yeah, we can. Oh no, it should be assert is true, I guess. Or maybe it was right. I don't see it exactly right now. No, it's right, probably. And then we have a replacement pattern which reuses this argument, etc., etc. Also a suppression key. But then you can see here, this is our very own code inspection, basically, because now if let's first highlight this. This API is deprecated, use assert is true. So yeah, this was right before. I was somewhere else. And then we can convert that with a single out enter. But not just only that, we can also move to the right and then say we want to apply this replacement in the whole method where we're currently working in, or in the whole file, whole project, whole solution. Yeah. So this makes it really easy. And this, we call it fix and scope inspections. And this works pretty much for most of the inspections. So whenever you see something, you know, to convert to a new language feature, for instance, then you can try to look out for this fix in solution, and then everything in the solution will be moved to this new style to this new code style. One example for that is probably, let me see if I have file scope names. I don't have it. But yeah, let's say we have file scope namespaces and block scope, and in this case, I could just convert it back to this one. But you know, this is where we basically start, but in our whole solution. And for that, you could go to the right and then say, move this to, or convert this to file scope namespaces in the whole solution. Yeah, that would be a good approach, and then you can just lean back and let writer do the work for you. Okay, constant interpolation. Let me see for a moment. Yeah, this is also nice. Everything that we know could be converted to interpolation, we can just do. And again, here I can do this for the whole file, and then you see it not only here at the beginning, and I'm just undo, redo in this case, but also down here. Yeah, so that's just another case of this fix and scope stuff. Yeah, top level statements. It's also nice to know, although I think, yeah, I would just show you. So this is usually the place that we start from. We might have a couple of projects that still have a program class defined with static void main or static int main. But what we can do is just go here, and I'm not too sure in what places it's available, if it's also in the method body here. Yeah, it's pretty much available everywhere. But then we can just say we want to convert to a top level code. Yeah, so that will do it. If you want to convert back, and that's the point which I meant, it's or what I wanted to say, it's not exactly greatly discoverable, but after any semicolon that you have in your code, you can hit Alt Enter and say you want to convert it to an explicit program class, you know, in certain cases where maybe you need additional attributes, or I don't know, you need some special stuff, then you can do this. All right, let's head over. You see, I'm also trying to add one project per C# language level. This might also be a good one, because you see we have this file global usings, and writer tells us, okay, this one, it's not needed anywhere in your code, so we might as well remove it. So then it would be removed. And that's also very special about writer and ReSharper as the background process, because we analyze the whole solution and also semantically in relation to each other. So we know that this is not used, so we can suggest to remove it. Likewise, maybe a bad example for this particular namespace, but if you say I wanna really extract that as a global using, then you can also go to any using that you have anywhere and say, I want to put this into global usings, and then it gets removed and would be available to all the others. Yeah. And here it is, then basically. Okay, about C#11, let me see if there's anything that is nice. Oh yeah, maybe this, you know, sometimes we might end up with, you know, historically code base grew and stuff over time. So this is also pretty new, because we can, I think it's here, we can capture constant names. Yeah. So what's happening then, and just I want to show you one more place. So we have these two where the value is basically the same as the member, and also here. This is also referencing to the first parameter, number, And here we could write name of for a long time already, but this to write name of in this place, that was new, at least to reference other parameters. But this now works in every place, so we can capture the constant name. And let me do this again because I forgot to go to the right. Then you see all of them have been replaced with name of. Yeah, pretty cool thing. And required attribute might also be noteworthy because maybe you've seen that already, but we can mark fields and properties as required, because otherwise we would use constructor injection to make sure it's actually initialized. But now we can just write or say that a property is required, and once we want to instantiate such a person in this case, and last name and first name is required, then we have this error and we want to fix our code, and then we get this part generated, and we could say Matt, for instance, and something like this. Okay, I think in terms of features for the others, I mean, we support the language constructs for all of these features, and I think a couple more are also missing. But many times it's really just updating the existing features that we already have to support these. So, for instance, with string interpolation, with raw strings, I want to give you this example really quick. This could be also just an ordinary string, but I would type it just here. And you see if I type a brace, then I get completion because writer knows or thinks maybe you want to use string interpolation here. So if I do this, then the $sign will be added to the front, and this will be eventually an interpolated string. Likewise, another example is this here for actually multi-line raw strings, because this last thing here, this last three quotes, those denote the indentation. And of course, if this denotes the indentation, then it cannot be further to the right than the actual content that we provide. So in this case, it would let you know that you have to move it to the left a little bit. It can be more to the left, of course, because that is what raw strings allow. But yeah, so these nice little quality of life features for working with strings and any of the other things. Okay. Code editing. Code editing is also a nice topic, but let me see where I want to start. So we talked about strings a little bit already, but yeah, let me see. So for instance, we have this JSON here. If we copy that and want to insert it into a string, then what happens is that writer asks us if we want to escape that, and with an alt enter, this will just happen. I could also paste this here in a multi-line string or verbatim string. Then same thing will happen about escaping and stuff. So yeah, updating raw strings to work nicely with that will be pretty interesting. But yeah, I guess at some point that will also happen. Okay, what else about strings? Yeah. One thing that maybe a couple actually don't know, but if you have a long string like me here in this case, you can actually just go here and hit enter all the time, every time where you want to split, and writer will do the hard work for you to add closing quotes, the concatenation plus sign, and then the beginning quotes again for the next line. So this is also easy to format existing text with that. Okay, there was one question which I can answer right away. The new version of or the new UI in Rider is currently only available. It's also available in the old one, but the actual UI switch is only in EAPs. currently. Yeah, and then it's far here at the beginning, appearance, and then UUI. Yeah. Okay. That also gave me a moment of rethinking what I sorry, laughing too hard. What I wanna do next, and this is databases. I'm sorry. All right, databases. This is also quite nice because maybe you didn't know, but Rider also not just has WebStorm as the as one of our other IDEs to add support for TypeScript and JavaScript, but also DataGrip. And DataGrip is also a separate IDE that we provide for working with databases. And this is integrated here as well. And I think databases, then you can see I have a little SQLite database connected here, which is called Smurfs. And I have some tables, Smurf hobbies and Smurfs. So I could maybe inspect this here. And, you know, I'm rarely working with databases. Oh man, downloading drivers. Let's see, maybe this is quick. Usually it is quick. But I don't know right now. Yeah, see, now it's working already. That was quick. Absolutely not planned. So yeah, we have this table here. We could insert some things. I think just by inserting something. Then this won't change yet, but only if we also need to be compliant, but only if we submit this as a transaction. And we can also see pending changes and stuff. But yeah, this is one example of a database. And we also have Smurf hobbies, which doesn't have any content. Yeah, I was lazy apparently. But what I wanted to show you, and of course this, I mean, the features of DataGrip fit in probably not a whole hour even. So there are definitely some other YouTube materials that you can check out. But one thing I want to show you, and that is any string. Let me actually just retype that. Yeah. So I have just a string, and I say select blah 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 from Smurfs, and you can see I have code completion for that. So I could say Smurfs. Then let's go on with it, and say I also want to join. And now you see, DataGrip is actually giving suggestions on what how's it called, columns I could join these two tables. So this looks more right than SQLite master, to be honest. But yeah, I guess the suggestion is just because it's called name on both. But now we can use join, and then we could also continue with the where clause and say name, for instance, is something. You know, I forgot how to write where clauses. Like I said, I don't do databases. But yeah, I guess you get the idea here. And this is awesome for the few things that I had to use databases. And if you do, I think you will absolutely love this. Also, one quick note. Let me see. Do I have it somewhere else here? I think I have it in the other. Give me 1 second. Yeah, because this feature about select clauses in strings, this is based on the idea of language injections. Yeah. And as you can see here, these are also both ordinary strings, but I put this this comment before it, and that will make it, in this case, to be treated as a regular expression, and this one to be treated as HTML. I think you can also write lang, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Then, okay. Maybe not, but anyway, one thing that you can do, you know, if it's just a string like this, is hitting Alt Enter. And then, where is it? Mark as injected language or reference, and then say .NET regular expression. That will have the same effect. And then you can go here, you know, this is something after how many years do I do software? Any number. I still don't remember many of the character classes and all, this will help you, yeah, to find anything you need. And yeah, it has basic highlighting for that. It also works with groups, by the way. I should have prepared that example, but it just hit my mind. But even if you use groups, I think I got it here somewhere. So let me go to Git repository. This is my own project that I'm working on. But one thing I wanted to show you, there's, how do I find this? Yeah, here, down here. You can see here I have a very long regular expression. And if you try to get something out from a group, then Writer will also know which groups you used. So this is very nice to, not to go back and see, okay, which name did I use for that group and stuff. Yeah, but same for HTML. We should have code completion here. Damn it. Okay, doesn't want. Usually you have code completion. I have no idea. All right. One more thing. I'm a big fan of that next thing that I'm going to show you, and that is expand shrink selection. Yeah, because this is helping immensely with refactoring code and yeah, mainly about introducing variables. But let's say we have this for each method here, and you can see I'm not a big fan of putting stuff like this into the not iteration value, but the collection value, because it's hard to debug. Yeah, and here in particular, I have many chords that do something specific, and it would be nice to have dedicated variables for that. I know there's also a good way to visualize that, like in a chained way. But I don't think we have that yet. But let's go on with it, because if I'm putting my cursor right here and I use the shortcut to expand, or maybe it's extend. This is something that, yeah, extend selection. So if I do this a couple of times, and you see I'm structurally selecting code, and I'm going on and on, yeah, until finally I'm selecting the whole class, in which case Control A would be much better, of course. But I can also do the opposite, which is called shrink selection. Yeah, and if I do this, then you can see I'm just going back. Yeah, I go forward, I go back with my selection. And so once I'm here, I could say I want to introduce a variable. Yeah, Control RV in my case, and then I can say these are the even numbers, for instance. Then I go on and say this is the what is it called? Absolute numbers. Yeah, and then ordered absolute numbers. Something like this. Yeah. So this helps quite a lot to refactor code, particularly introducing variables and stuff. Another thing that is also not strictly about C#, but I will show it in C# in this case. This is like a universal refactoring tool, but based on text. So I'm not sure if we can call it refactoring tool. But let's motivate this example for a moment. I have this method here, doesn't do anything meaningful, but I introduced something called Smurf naming. You see, I have Smurf name, I have Smurf age, and I'm also using these two to write to the console. Now, Smurf naming, if you happen to there's one nice thread on Stack Overflow talking about anti-patterns in software development. Smurf naming is one of them, and that is when you always have this prefix on all your variables. So let's say this would be many more where we have Smurf naming. Let's say we want to fix that. And that is something where we could use select occurrences. Yeah. I will use this, select all occurrences, but we can also say we want to just select the next one. Yeah. Okay, I think I was wrong. I'm actually using select next one. But there's also a shortcut to select all at once. But I like this, select next one, because you really see what you're going to select. Because sometimes it might be the wrong thing. Yeah. Like in this case, for instance, I don't want to remove that, but luckily this thing is case sensitive. So we end up having all the Smurf prefixes selected. Now we can remove this, of course. But now you see, okay, this doesn't exactly follow the naming pattern, the naming convention, let's say, in C#. So what we can further do is expanding our selection again for one character. And then I could say toggle case. Yeah, also has a shortcut. And then we have fixed that as well. Yeah. This is called multi-caret, like in many other IDEs, I guess. But this is really if you're in a situation, also when you copy some data from somewhere else, this feature can be really helpful to restructure what you have and put it into your code. And yeah, so I'm a huge fan of that. And I guess once you know about this feature, the next time you feel like, okay, this could be a place where it's helpful, I'm sure you will remember this. Next, also one of my favorites. Oh, time is running. But yeah, this is my favorite, so I have to show it for sure. Yeah, these comments are actually meant for people checking out the repository, but I just left them. Okay, so let's say I've received, again, very simple example. I received an array of numbers and I want to filter only the even numbers from that. Now the naive way, or the conventional way, it's not even just naive, would be to say, okay, I have a for each, and then you see this is, let's type this again. This is a live template or snippet, some others call it. We could use a template for that to do this, or write manually, but then select numbers, of course, go through, blah, blah, and then go further. The conventional way of writing this. Let's do this a little bit different. And for that, yeah, let's start with numbers. Yeah, because numbers, this is the point from where we start. Yeah. And from numbers, we could say we want to iterate that. So why not call for each? And of course, this is not an instance method to the numbers parameter, but it's also a template, but a postfix template. So when I complete this, it will convert to an for each template. Then I can go on. And now I want to filter for even numbers, like I said before. With expressions, you can do very much the same. So we modulo to 2 and check if it's 0. Now we have this Boolean expression because even was the first word I heard, so that's why I first write the expression. And then we say, okay, but only if. Yeah. And once this is the case, then we could say number should be yield, like this. So it's a little bit, backwards. For me, I think there are many times when this saves a lot of keystrokes. And I got used to it. I'm sure you will too, once you try it. We can also convert to a link in the end because this reads much better. One more example I want to show you is, and I did tweet about this before. And the question was, can you write, and I will write it the naive way, can you write this in the lowest number of characters? Yeah, or let's say string builder, yeah, like this. What's the lowest number of characters you need to actually write this? So let's try. SB, yeah, string builder selected, nice. Then let's say dot, yeah, so that's 3 keystrokes, and then var, I just need to type the V and enter. Okay. Okay, let's remove this because this was messing with my example. Okay, so let's type V again, enter, and this is it. Yeah, we could also type escape. Depends on which keystrokes you want to count. But this works with any type, yeah, not just with string builder. And it's really just providing the type name, then saying I want to a variable holding an instance of that, and that's all. Yeah. Okay, time 7 more minutes. Okay, so in those 7 minutes, I want to show you Git integration, because that's another thing I absolutely love. I have my project here because this has a few more commits, so it's a better example to show, you know. But this is the Git history here. You can also see in this example, you can actually also see that I have multiple, how's it called, repository in the same solution that I have open. And that's why you see not just one repository, but many of them denoted by this this nice little color. So, and of course I can also search. So let's search for sign, for instance, and then you can see a lot of people have committed. I could say, one thing that I could say is I want to have commits only by Rodney, a very good friend of mine. Or let's say we want all again. Another thing that is pretty interesting is that we can limit this to a certain path. Like in this case, it should be a certain directory. You can actually select this from the tree. So then you can say, okay, I want only changes in this directory, for instance, and then it gets further reduced, and you have a nice time, you know, finding the commit that you need. Okay. One more thing. One more thing about, well, it's not exactly a repository, but similar, let's say. Let's go back here. One thing, also I tweeted about this. One thing that people really, really love is local history. And for that, I want to set the stage really quick. And there's a nice way to set the stage, but it takes too much time. Anyway, to set the stage, just imagine you are working on something. And it took, let's say, an hour or two, or maybe more. And then you realize, okay, this is not it. This is not the approach. It's not working. And you delete everything without committing because you thought it's not working, right? And then later you find out, okay, this was actually the direction I should have gone, but there was just a tiny mistake. Yeah. If you haven't committed, there's no way to go back. Yeah. Except if you use Writer and you use local history, because local history, what it does is having like an automatic source control for your repository. Yeah. And it will track changes over, I think there's, in the settings, there's some way to also define how long these changes should be tracked. But then you can go back to any point in time and see what was done, like code templates, for instance. Let's check that. Ah, yeah, and maybe you remember we turned this to block scope before. So that is the change that we did here. But with that, you can get back to previously lost code. Yeah, and this works. This is also good to know, I think. This works on a directory level. Solution, you could say it's a directory, more or less, because everything below, but also on a file level. So like in this case, I could also say show local history, and it will also take external changes into account. Or I think here, no, not here, here, let's see. It will also create, let's say, something like save points if you execute certain actions. For instance, like a rollback. Yeah, a rollback is something that people execute and then later realize, damn it. Yeah, so those will be marked right away. And you can actually also create a patch yourself if you search for local history. Which one is it? No, not that one. Okay, this is one thing where I think that. Give me a moment. Yeah, here. Yeah. Also, one thing I didn't show. There are a lot of things I didn't show, but also this is the VCS operations pop-up on my key map. Control V has all the nice actions that you need for working with your repository. And put label would make a definite save point for local history. But for Git, for instance, then you also have stuff like branches, and again, this looks much better in a real project. So I always go with numbers. So I type 7 because this is the mnemonic hard word. So branches, and then I type the branches that I want, or repository that I want, can go to the right, and then okay, I'm on move already. So let's say, what is the other code? Yeah, and then say update whatever operation you want to execute. Okay, we have one more minute, but I didn't get to debugging, unfortunately. But maybe I will show it briefly. I will answer any questions, even if we have to stop with the stream. But which one should I? This is a nice one to close, maybe. We have a test. You see it's randomly failing. Yeah, happens, I guess. Many of you have to deal with something like this every once in a while. Flaky tests that show on CI, and then you have to find out locally what happened. This is a test. Only sometimes it's failing. So how nice would it be to actually say, and this is also in the unit test, how's it called? I forgot the name. Unit test, quick list. Yeah. I will be honest, I'm always lost if a great feature doesn't have an icon yet, because then I oversee it. But it also has a shortcut you can see. So let's try to do this. Option Shift and U. Option Shift U. So there's the quick list for unit tests. And then we can say, let me just see, caret is in the right place. And then we can say, for instance, and again, I'm looking. What I should do is typing, no, not append. I typed something accidentally already. What I should do is typing until, because there are two actions for running the test until failure and for debug the test until failure. So we can do this, and then you can see it's debugging. And at some point, we hit that exception, and now we could inspect what's actually happening. What values are we dealing with, etc. Okay, I will stop here because I see there are plenty of questions. Before I forget it, I'm hanging out in the Discord anyways all the time. So if you ever have a question, feel free to and this is continuing. Feel free to tag me. That's fine. Yeah. I like questions about Rider. I'm very, very keen to help you. But yeah, so far, thanks for watching. And so let's go. Let's check the questions. How do you think will Fleet influence the future of Rider? Do you think, like in the case of VS and VS Code, people might be switching from Rider because they like the new lightweight approach more? Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's a matter about personal preference. I can say I would probably stick with the old UI also. So far, I prefer that, it's a personal thing. Of course, the two will influence each other a bit. There was actually a case recently, but I just heard it while passing by. But what was it? I don't remember. If Martin was here, he would know. But yeah, we learn, just like with Rider, for instance, also we introduced this approach with multi-process, and that also helped in a couple of other situations to improve things. Also for ReSharper, where we're still working on one heavy chunk of work to make it out of process. But some parts are already like solution model. I think project model is already using another approach. But let me read that question again, just to make sure I address it to the point that I feel confident of saying. Yeah, I still think that Fleet is probably, I mean, that's personal opinion, yeah. But Fleet is very good in a way that it supports so many languages, and that in a single place. That is great about it. Which version of Rider do I? We covered that, but I will say it again. If you want to check out the new UI, make sure to use EAP and then enable this and restart. What a boss, laughing too hard. Yeah, brave man testing the DB in live mode. Yeah, I'll be honest, I was very scared when I saw the error. But I can also say, every time I need to install a driver, Rider has the right install button for me, and usually it just works. Maximum is you have to restart Rider or something. Was there any mention regarding when the non-EAP version supporting the new .NET version is going to go live? So I guess with going to go live, you mean when it will be RTM, so final release. So let me check, because I have this in my calendar. So we do have 2 blockers, and it depends on when the actual release will happen. But we're looking at the week of the 5th or 12th of December. So if everything goes right, then hopefully then, yeah. But please don't be mad if it's not. Yeah, I mean, we're always doing our best, but things can happen. Yeah. Since we learned from your last talk, you also want to become an expert. Good joke. I will read the question anyways. Since we learned from your last talk, you also want to become an expert on Blazor frontends. When can we see a full stack course from you, including, of course, working with a database? For me, never. Not a course. No, never, ever. One thing that I forgot, though, which might be interesting for people working with Blazor, and I actually showed it on Monday, but it can also help in other cases, is the following plugin. It's called, where is it? What was the name? Let me first think. The name, yeah, .NET Watch. Okay, I should search. I'm preaching. You should search, but yeah. Now people watching me, then that doesn't go so smooth. Come on, watch again. Yeah. So this plugin is really helpful because it allows you to run projects with .NET Watch command. Yeah. And then it will run again once you modify something. And we also have good support for hot reload in general. So in many places, I mean, it's a very short answer or explanation that I give here, but in many cases you can just hit reload code and it will just recompile and make the necessary changes, but you don't need to restart. So this run configuration is nice, but you also then, oh man, how does this work? But then you also need to edit here. So here again, .NET Watch, and then you need to fill out whatever project you want to execute. Okay. So yeah, sorry, no full stack course. No, never. Not from me. Question from YouTube, I guess. Where's the mark string language saved? Yeah, good question. Very good question, actually. Let's go back. Where was it? Here. This one, if you do it like this, I think it's just saved locally. Yeah, that is why I prefer to have this comment here. And yes, the comment, you would basically have to know what to type there. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard because, like I said, it should also work in it also works in this case. So I think it's good enough to be remembered. What I would like more personally, is if this would actually give the option to also add a comment. But yeah, this way, I'm pretty sure it will be saved to your user files. Language injection rocks. Yeah, I can agree. Let me put a thanks on that. Like right now, people had here debates about the new UI. Is there any plan to make it optional? Or will it at some point in the future be required to switch? And what is your take on it in general? Yeah, I think I gave a bit of explanation already on it. I will probably stick with the old. I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of completely moving there. At least not yet. But I'm also a person, it takes some time for me to get used to, and maybe then afterwards I like it. But I totally get it. I would definitely make sure that this is communicated. But yeah, we also have this, maybe you remember, we also have the commit dialog, and people prefer the the model dialog for committing. And we also still have that. Yeah. So I don't expect this to be removed. Any groundbreaking, amazing new debugging features? Yeah, well, one I had to skip, unfortunately, but what's the time? I think in 5 minutes you're starting with the next session, so I won't have time for that. But there are dependent breakpoints. If you want to search for that I really love. What else? You have, maybe this I can still show, because this is one thing. I mean, it's not new, but it's great. So if we had a breakpoint here and we want to type a condition, then you can see this has code completion for everything that you can imagine, something like this. This also works with the immediate window down below. If we are currently debugging, then you can execute something there. What else? Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, that's the only thing that I remember at the moment. Questions start from here. Yeah, okay. And is the 9? Damn it. So there's one thing, I'm always wondering. Some people say Nyan cat, but to me it sounds like this cat is saying nyan 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 nyan. So I call it Nyan cat. The default loader animation, is it changeable? Yes. I mean, no, it's not the default, but it's also a plugin, Nyan cat progress bar, and there are a couple of others also. I think, let's say progress bar. There are a lot. So whatever you like, there's Mario, there's Pokemon, Ash, Eevee, Sonic, and yeah, a lot. And that would replace your progress bar. And then you always have something to talk about, like I do right now. Writer gang, yeah, I'm one of them. What's a feature you think Writer still lacks? Man, it was just a moment ago that I thought, yeah, this is lacking. But what was it? Yeah, for me personally, I'm looking forward to have a tool window to see all the modules that are currently loaded. So that's debugger specific. That's one thing that I personally miss. What else? I mean, yeah, of course, now we're getting into comparing with Visual Studio, VS Code. What else? There was definitely one other thing, but I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying like this is absolutely perfect and has everything you need. It has everything, most of the stuff that I need. And absolutely the majority, of course. But yeah, if you happen to miss something, then also let me know. Any news on hot reload on Linux? Yeah, you know, TB Clone, you're always coming with the best questions that get me on cold feet. I'm just guessing here, but I think hot reload on Linux generally had an issue with .NET, with the .NET runtime. But I personally don't use it. Things are changing so quickly. So I have to tell you again, like on Monday, if you want to get a definite answer, just ping me again. I will check. Yeah. Yeah. Are you by any chance related to the? No, I'm not. I'm not. And by the way, in case you wonder, my last name is pronounced Koch. So there's one way in English, and it's not pronounced that way. I don't even know what these other are, to be honest. I never heard those names. Okay. Here's one thing. For me, it would be being able to open the user secrets JSON. You know, I do remember there's a plugin for, I haven't tried it, but Netcore user secrets. Maybe you can check out this plugin and see if it does what you want. Yeah. But I've never tried it. Yeah. Oh man. You know, so many things that I didn't have the chance to show you, because many times when I give presentations at meetups, it goes for 2 hours. But yeah, this is it. Maybe you can join at another occasion with a meetup. Okay. So I guess this is it. Yeah. Thanks one more time from me. I had the honor twice to give a talk here, and I really hope that you all enjoyed it. And like I said, I will repeat it again. If you ever have any issues, let me know. Tag me. Many times other people also tag me, which is also nice. But yeah, let me know also how it goes, if you like it or what you don't like, then we can improve on it. And yeah, see you for Solution 2, maybe. But anyway, I wish you all a great rest of the online conference, and kudos again to the organizers. I think this is really great. So yeah, bye bye.